Hey everyone, Kundan Yashputra here with NextGen Now. What if you're on a plane, thousands of feet in the air, and something goes terribly wrong? Why do we keep boarding flights when the fear of a crash lingers in the back of our minds? Could an invention from a Ukrainian engineer mean no one ever has to die in a plane crash again? Or is it just a wild dream that sounds better on paper than in the skies? Today we're diving into a story that starts with a tragedy so recent it's still raw, weaves through a bold idea born nearly a decade ago, and ends with a question that could reshape how we think about flying. Buckle up, because this one's a ride. It's June 12, 2025, Ahmedabad, India. Air India Flight 171, a Boeing 787-8 Dreamliner, roars down the runway, bound for London. Families, business travelers, and crew, 242 souls, are on board, expecting a smooth 8-hour flight. But 30 seconds after takeoff, at 13:38 IST, the plane lurches. Something's wrong, horribly wrong. The aircraft plummets, smashing into the hostel block of BJ Medical College in Meganinagar. The impact is catastrophic. Flames erupt, debris scatters, and lives are lost in an instant. Only one person, a 40-year-old British man in row 11A, survives. He later tells DD News how a section of the plane broke apart, landing on the hostel's ground floor, letting him crawl through a shattered emergency exit. His brother seated elsewhere wasn't so lucky. On the ground, 33 people, mostly students, perish in the wreckage. The Times of India reports on June 13, 2025, that this is Air India's deadliest crash since 1985 and the first fatal incident involving a Boeing 787 since its 2011 debut. The question haunts us: could a radical invention have saved those 241 lives? This tragedy pulls us into the story of Vladimir Tatarenko, a Ukrainian aerospace engineer who, back in 2016, proposed something straight out of a sci-fi movie. A detachable passenger cabin that could eject from a plane in an emergency, floating passengers to safety with parachutes and inflatable tubes. It's an idea that sounds like a lifeboat for the skies, but it sparked fierce debate. Is it a game changer or an engineering pipe dream? To answer that, we need to understand the crash that started this conversation, the man behind the idea, and why the aviation world is so divided. Let's go back to that day in Ahmedabad. Air India Flight 171 wasn't just a number, it was a collection of stories cut short. The Boeing 787-8, registered VTANB, was 11 years old, built in Everett, Washington. Its passengers included parents taking kids to visit grandparents in London, professionals heading to meetings, and crew members who'd done this route countless times. At 13:38, as the plane climbed, something failed. Possibly an engine or critical system. We don't know yet. The flight data recorder, recovered after 28 hours of searching, is still being analyzed, according to The Hindu on June 14, 2025. The crash killed 33 people on the ground, mostly students in their dorms, turning a routine takeoff into a citywide tragedy. India's Aircraft Accident Investigation Bureau, with help from the UK and US, is digging into the cause, focusing on fuel systems and engine controls. This wasn't the first time a flight numbered 171 met disaster. In 1976, Indian Airlines Flight 171 crashed in Bombay after engine failure sparked a fire, killing all 95 on board, as reported by the New York Times. History repeating itself feels like a gut punch, and it makes Tatarenko's idea feel urgent. Now, let's meet Vladimir Tatarenko. In 2016, after 3 years of work, this Ukrainian engineer unveiled his vision to the world. Imagine a plane where the entire passenger cabin can break away in a crisis, during takeoff, mid-flight, or landing. Once detached, giant parachutes unfurl from the cabin's roof, slowing its descent like a dandelion seed floating to the ground. Inflatable tubes deploy underneath, cushioning a landing on land or keeping the cabin afloat on water. Even the luggage stored in a cargo hold below stays safe. Tatarenko told LiveLeak in 2016, surviving a plane crash is possible. His point? Engineers can make planes stronger, but human error, pilots, air traffic controllers, maintenance crews, remains the biggest risk. His design aims to outsmart that risk, giving passengers a second chance. The concept video he posted on YouTube went viral, racking up millions of views. The Independent reported on November 30, 2016, that the system could deploy in seconds, using lightweight materials like Kevlar and carbon fiber to keep the plane's weight manageable. Tatarenko even surveyed passengers, finding 95% would pay more for a ticket on such a plane. After Air India Flight 171 post on X, as noted by Times Now in 2025, brought the idea back into the spotlight, with users asking, could this have saved those lives? The mechanics sound simple, but they're mind-bogglingly complex. The cabin is a self-contained module, bolted into the fuselage with a release system that pilots can trigger in an emergency. It's like a fighter jet's ejector seat, but for 200 passengers. Parachutes deploy instantly, and inflatable tubes ensure a soft landing. Crew Daily reported in 2019 that the detachment takes 2 to 3 seconds, fast enough for most crises. Tatarenko's use of composites like Kevlar offsets the weight of the extra systems, so the plane doesn't guzzle fuel. It's a clever setup, almost like a spaceship capsule designed to survive re-entry. Small planes, like the Cirrus SR-22, already use parachutes successfully. Forbes noted in 2016 that Cirrus's system made it a bestseller in private aviation. But scaling that to a Boeing 737 or Airbus A350 with hundreds of passengers and tons of cargo is like trying to parachute an entire apartment building. Here's where things get tricky. The aviation world isn't exactly cheering. Critics like Trebor Schroeder, quoted by Times Now, argue the design weakens the plane's structure. A fuselage is a single reinforced tube built to withstand turbulence, pressure, and G-forces. Adding joints for a detachable cabin creates weak points, like cracks in a dam waiting to burst. Forbes called it less than half-baked in 2016, pointing out that the cabin, once detached, has no control over where it lands. Floating under parachutes, it could drift into a city, a mountain, or a forest, potentially causing more damage than the crash itself. Amusing Planet echoed this in 2016, noting the risk of cabins smashing into populated areas. And then there's timing. Air India Flight 171 crashed 30 seconds after takeoff, barely airborne. Boeing data from 2005-2014 shows 73% of fatal crashes happen during takeoff or landing when there's no time for parachutes to deploy. A detachable cabin might work mid-flight, but that's only 27% of fatal crashes. The most gut-wrenching critic, the pilots. Tatarenko's design leaves the cockpit attached to the fuselage, meaning the crew stays behind while passengers float to safety. It's like asking the captain of a sinking ship to stay on the bridge while lifeboats escape. Times Now reported in 2025 that this sparked ethical debates. Pilots are trained to prioritize passengers, but condemning them to die feels wrong. Tatarenko's earlier 2013 designs hinted at rear exit solutions for the whole cabin, but his 2016 patent focuses only on passengers. Imagine being a pilot. Knowing your choice to save others might end your life. It's a moral tightrope, and Tatarenko hasn't fully addressed it. Now let's talk dollars and cents, because aviation isn't just about engineering, it's about economics. A Boeing 787 costs $200 to $300 million. Adding a detachable cabin could jack up the price, requiring new designs, testing, and certifications. Forbes argued in 2016 that it's not worth it when flying is already so safe. The International Air Transport Association reported that 2014, a rough year, saw 641 deaths out of 3.3 billion passengers. Compare that to car crashes, which kill over 1.3 million people yearly. Isadora Kaliansini, quoted by Times Now, put it bluntly, of the millions of flights a year, less than 500 people die worldwide. Seems not terribly cost-effective. Airlines might rather invest in better training or diagnostics than gamble on an unproven system. Yet, Tatarenko's survey shows passengers are willing to pay more, driven by fear. About 1 in 3 people feel anxious flying, according to My Modern Met. That fear is real, even if the risk is tiny. This isn't the first time someone's dreamed of detachable cabins. After the 1986 Challenger shuttle disaster, the European Hermes shuttle explored similar ideas but ditched them for cost and weight reasons, per The Independent. In 2015, Airbus patented a pod concept for quick passenger swaps at airports, not safety, as Forbes noted. These ideas keep popping up because crashes, though rare, hit hard. Take US Airways Flight 1549, the Miracle on the Hudson, in 2009. Captain Chesley Sullenberger landed an Airbus A320 in the Hudson River after a bird strike killed both engines. All 155 passengers survived thanks to his skill and a fuselage that floated. The New York Times covered it extensively, noting the plane was at 2,000 feet, too low for a detachable cabin to work. Most crashes happen at low altitudes, where parachutes are useless. Tatarenko's big argument is that human error, which causes 80% of crashes, can't be fully eliminated. He told LiveLeak, while aircraft engineers try to make planes safer, they can do nothing about the human factor. He's not wrong. From pilot fatigue to miscommunication, humans are the weak link. Air India Flight 171's cause is still unclear, but human error could be a factor. A detachable cabin might help in mid-flight emergencies like engine fires or structural failures, but not in cases like Flight 171 where the crash happened too fast. If that cabin had detached at 30 seconds post-takeoff, it might have landed in the same hostel, causing similar devastation. The sole survivor's escape, when part of the plane broke apart, was a fluke, not a design feature. So what's the bigger picture? Tatarenko's idea challenges us to rethink safety. Flying is safer than driving, with less than 500 deaths yearly. But crashes like Flight 171, with 241 lives lost, remind us that safe isn't perfect. Tatarenko's design is like a lifeboat in a storm, hopeful, ambitious, but hard to steer. The engineering hurdles, costs, and ethical questions are huge. Yet there's something inspiring about his refusal to accept the status quo. He quotes Einstein and Confucius in his YouTube video, "Life is sacred, and he who saves a single soul saves a whole world." His idea may never take off, but it sparked a conversation. Maybe the future isn't detachable cabins, but smarter systems. AI pilots, better diagnostics, or escape pods for everyone, crew included. Air India Flight 171 demands we keep asking, how do we make the skies safer? That's the story of a tragedy that shook India and an idea that could change aviation or crash and burn. At NextGen Now, we dive deep, doing the hard research to bring you every detail, every perspective. If this story gripped you, smash that like button, subscribe, and ring the bell for more. Share it with a friend who loves planes or just wants to feel safer flying. Drop a comment. Do you think detachable cabins could work, or are they a fantasy? I'm Kundan Yashputra, and I'll see you in the next one. Stay curious.